Lethality, convergence, and gun sights in World War II. This is Len, Viking 1 Helmerson. You've seen those gun camera films from World War II. A few short bursts from the guns of the ace and it's all over. Is it really that easy? It sure isn't for me. Air-to-air gunnery often seems like a black art, a hit or miss, pardon the pun, kind of thing. When should you fire? What type of armament is most effective? What convergence settings should you use? How close is close enough? How many pilots became aces in the real world of World War II air combat? Maybe 1 out of 30. In reality, air-to-air engagements weren't that common, and when they did happen, many times all parties returned home without decisive victories. It was really difficult to get an air-to-air kill in World War II. Film clips we see show the victories, and they come from the gun cameras of the more proficient pilots. The reasons why it was hard to get a kill are many. First, the caliber of the weapon fired was often quite small. Even the larger caliber machine guns, 13mm is roughly the same size as 50 caliber, but the 50 caliber round was generally 40% heavier. Even the larger machine guns required many hits to achieve a kill, unless the pilot was killed. Second, too many pilots fired from too great a range. This contributed to a number of problems. It lowered the hit ratio. It lowered the lethality of the projectile because velocity degrades with distance. It warned the bandit that there was an enemy nearby. In the same way, one of the most common problems I see with novice air combat pilots is they fire too soon and from too great a range. Eric Hartman, with 352 kills in World War II, offers some advice. When you begin flying combat and you're 100 meters from the enemy machine, you get jittery because you're too close to him. That's what you feel in the beginning. By experience, you come to know that when you're 100 meters from the other machine, you're still too far away. The inexperienced pilot breaks away for fear of mid-air collision. The experienced pilot brings his machine in closer, and when he fires, the other machine goes down. Estimating the correct range to the target is the first problem the pilot has to solve. That problem can be handled in part by an adjustable, illuminated gun sight. The second problem is lead angle, and it's considerably more complex, since it depends on the angle off the tail of your target, AOT for short. Let's look at both these problems as well as convergence settings, and before we do, let's consider the issue of lethality.
Falcon, this is item Urero. In contact. Proceed with your mission. Wind from the south.
I always felt confident flying the ME-109, even down to the armament. In the FW-190 you had 4 guns and much more hitting power against the 3 guns of the 109. I preferred 3 guns in the center of the aircraft, right along the longitudinal axis. This meant you had to aim very carefully, and when you did, our excellent ammunition got the job done. It had high explosive power. When you hit an enemy aircraft, that was good night. Gunther Long. What is lethality? It's a combination of 4 factors: range to target, projectile size, muzzle velocity, and rate of fire. Actually, these factors can be reduced to 2, kinetic energy and rate of fire. Lethality is a factor of kinetic energy, projectile weight plus velocity, and rate of fire. Let's consider a number of examples. The 20mm M2 cannon can place 196 pounds of lead in the air per minute, weight of fire, or 50 pounds of lead in the air in 15 seconds. This is the result of a 5-ounce shell being fired at the rate of 650 per minute. The muzzle velocity, Vm, of the M2 cannon is 2750 feet per second. Lethality is equal to Wf times Vm, equals 15.1. Now consider the lethality of a 50 caliber M2 machine gun. The weight of a 50 cal shell is 1.8 ounces at 800 rounds per minute. WF is 81 pounds per minute, and the muzzle velocity is 2,850 feet per second. WF times VM equals 6.7. The lethality is roughly 40% that of the 20mm cannon. All the American aircraft in Korea use a 50 cal machine gun. In practice in the average combat flight simulation, these figures hold true. It takes an incredible amount of fire from a 12.7mm gun in IL-2 great battles to down an FW-190. In fact, it's rarely done. On the other hand, 20mm cannon has good effect. But it doesn't matter what lethality your gun system has, unless you can put that fire on target. In the old IL-2, most pilots shouldn't consider firing a weapon at more than 350 meters. That is, after all, more than 1,000 feet of range. In IL-2 there's no hit bubble, and your bullets must actually strike the modeled object in order to score damage. Furthermore, accurate ballistics on IL-2 means that your bullets will drop with distance, and the profile of the target from the tail is much smaller than sims that use a hit bubble. Trying to hit a wing in profile is like trying to target a sheet of plywood. Go in close, and when you think you're too close, go in closer. In this situation, it becomes unwise to begin firing at more than 250 meters. In fact, it becomes difficult to get a hit at more than 250 meters unless your target is completely unaware of your presence. This difficulty is mitigated by the computerized gunsight if you have preset it to your expected target. Then a snapshot has a greater chance of success, and you can pull lead, aim ahead of your target, with some sense of purpose. In order to attack effectively with fixed guns, the pilot of the attacking fighter needs to stop the relative angular motion between the pipper and the target. This relative motion can be broken down into two components when viewed through the shooter's gunsight: lateral motion and vertical motion relative to the shooter's windscreen. Robert Shaw, Fighter Combat. Once having set your gun convergence, let's say at 250 yards, your proximity to the target begins to work against you under 150 yards. Many times at close range I've seen my cannon shells pass harmlessly by, bracketing either side of the target in my sights. In IL-2, a straight tracking shot is not a great solution. It's counterintuitive, but the hardest hit to get is one with zero deflection. The pilot is far better off to attack from an angle off the tail, AOT, of 15 to 20 degrees, whether horizontally or vertically. An AOT means the target profile is much larger, especially the wing profile, and especially when approaching a target defended by a rear gunner, an approach from below is safer. Some pilots suggest the solution is to pull more lead. The problem with this solution is that it often results in firing blind. In order to pull lead on a hard turning target, you must place the target well below your gun sight, frequently out of your view, and effectively guess the target's current vector. Well, sometimes there's no other options, but generally there is another option, and we'll consider it after we look at convergence.